With all this noise around AI,
So I would say Indian GCCs today are where Indian cricket was in 2011.
what's going to happen? Are the roles getting obsolete?
Correct.
Are people going to lose jobs? Is there going to be a mass layoff?
50% of jobs can be done by AI.
GCCs of India today
Yeah.
need to do in this journey as
Correct.
they prepare themselves for
Yeah.
future success 2040 and beyond.
The GCCs have to identify a problem, build the solution and execute it. By 2040, India must be the natural testbed for leadership, global leadership. The GCC of 2040 will have what I call human orchestrators.
Large and small firms go wrong when it comes to their AI strategy.
And said, oh, we will do AI, right?
A mid-40 leadership for any company who are now sunk into a problem statement that you got to implement AI and they don't know how to begin.
The framework I've built is called Braid, B-R-A-I-D. Braid literally means to intertwine, right? So as I said earlier, you need to intertwine the top down and the bottom up.
Build versus buy
Yeah.
versus partner.
The right question is, what can only you do with AI better than everyone else?
If you were to advise a board, how do they prioritize their strategies around AI and how do they keep the fluff aside?
Decipher the risk of what happens if there is AI built on bad data, right? That is a risk as well, which a lot of boards actually don't talk about. The board and the CFO need to challenge the CEO if there is no ROI, right? I think that conversation doesn't happen in enough boardrooms today.
If you were to bring all these three things together,
Yes.
how would that work?
So strategy tells you where to go. AI builds the capability to get there. Gamification makes your people want to go there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Sunil Shah Show. I am blessed to have one of the finest brains in AI today. Somebody who sits at the intersection of corporate strategy, artificial intelligence, and I would say human intelligence. One of the finest leaders in his space, the Chief Strategy Officer for Asia at TransUnion, Mr. Mayur Kapur. Mayur, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sunny, for having me.
Mayur, how do I start introducing yourself? You're one of the most renowned voices in your space for artificial intelligence. You won several accolades and we'll talk about it during the course of this episode.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we are here to decode why are you,
Yes.
the jargons of artificial intelligence and make it simple
Yeah.
for our audience. We want to go deep into how AI is changing everything
Yes.
that you see in your corporate life, that
Yeah.
you see around us,
Yes.
and how can artificial intelligence be embraced
Yeah.
as we take India to the next level of frontier.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
Now, looking forward to this conversation, Mayur, but before we dive in, you won global recognition for AI. You've been ranked amongst the world's most influential strategy leaders.
Yeah.
Tell us more about your beginnings. How did it start?
Yeah. So, Sunny, in addition to AI and gamification and strategy, right? I'm also a Six Sigma black belt and I'm also a part-time karaoke singer. And I think those last two things actually tell you everything about me because Six Sigma is about rigor and karaoke singing is about passion, right? And I live somewhere in between that. Now, Steve Jobs in his famous Stanford commencement speech said, find what you love, right? I think I got greedy. I found many things, right? And I think what I discovered was that when you bring together what you love with rigor and passion, the world starts reacting differently to you, right? So the first thing that happens is you get better opportunities. Not just more opportunities, I think better ones, right? So in my case, Six Sigma taught me to deconstruct a problem into its root cause. And that took me to strategy consulting. And within strategy consulting, I got very unique opportunities, right? Like I got the chance to set up the Mumbai office for a global strategy consulting firm when they were coming to India, very early in my career. That's very unique, right? And then I went to Reliance Industries where I designed the balance scorecard for Mr. Mukesh Ambani, Group Chairman of Reliance Industries Limited. So, these kind of opportunities don't come, I believe, naturally, right? So I think I was very blessed. And I do believe that this was a combination of the doing what I love with the rigor and passion that I was able to bring to my work, right? So this was the strategy piece, right? Now, gamification was a side hustle. It was like a side passion. But I did it seriously enough to participate in a global competition. And I won it. And that took me to China, where I used gamification to drive behavior change at a population scale, and we can talk more about that. So that was also a very unique experience, right? And then AI happened similarly. I just got deeper before it was clear that everyone needs to get deeper into AI. None of this was really planned. It happened, it followed because I cared deeply about everything that I was doing, right? So if you're sitting there thinking that, hey, I also have too many different interests, the dots are not connecting, right? Lot of things are scattered. I would say hang in there, because the other thing Steve Jobs said actually in the same speech was that you cannot connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them going backwards, right?
Yeah.
So you need to trust that the dots will somehow connect. You need to trust that in your career, when you look back, then you will discover, oh, if I had not done this, then I couldn't have done that, right? That's what happened to me. The dots connected for me. So yeah, that's what I would say. Find what you love. And the other thing that happened to me was, I found the right mentors at just the right time, right? Sometimes they found me, and sometimes I reached out even when I was not sure that I should be reaching out. But every time they said yes. So in the last 2 decades, people showed up to help me at just the right time in my career, right? So that was the other thing which happened. And I do believe this is the second thing that happens when you combine what you love with rigor and passion. People see you, right? Like what you're doing, and then they come to you, they want to help you, right? So that's what I would say. Find what you love and find the right mentors. And those two things compound with each other.
Rightly said. If I were to dissect the 3 segments of your life,
Yeah.
AI, strategy, and gamification.
Yes.
While we'll talk about all of them,
Yeah.
let's start with the hype right now.
AI.
We'll talk with AI.
Yeah.
But I want to go beyond the hype.
Okay.
You being at the intersection of where you are,
Yes.
where you are leading the strategy of a large organization, at the same time, you're deeply invested into AI as a technology.
That's correct.
If you were to point me beyond the hype, where do
Yeah.
you see AI getting implemented
Yes.
at ground zero?
Yeah.
And how do you think it's transforming the world around us?
Yeah. So, Sunny, most people would say Silicon Valley, right? That's the intuitive answer. Now, Silicon Valley is probably where AI is getting invented, right? But if you look at where AI is getting implemented at enterprise scale, I would say the most underappreciated answer to that question is India's GCCs, Global Capability Centers, right? I'll give you some 2 or 3 data points why I say that, right? So first of all, AI scales when it is real, right? Indian GCCs are working on real core workflows where AI is embedded into not pilots, but production systems, right? Supply chain, finance, marketing for global companies. This is live and running in India with real outcomes today. This is not a pilot, right? So this is the first reason why I say that Indian GCCs are the place where AI is happening at scale, right? The second piece is Indian GCCs solve for what's called the last mile problem in AI. What that basically means is if you try to put AI in a pilot, it works well. The moment you put it in a messy workflow, right, it tends to fail most of the time, right? Now, Indian GCCs have an advantage in that the process owner is sitting along with the data and technology at the same center. He is co-located with the data and the technology. So the AI is not just sitting on top of a process. The AI is actually embedded in the process. So the process owner can also change the process if required based on the AI coming on top of it, right? So this is another reason why GCCs are the area where AI is happening at scale and is happening well, right? And last but not the least, AI has already scaled in India's GCCs, right? India today has more than 2,100 global capability centers. More than 60% of those use AI. More than half of the centers that were created in the last 5 years are AI first. They were created on day one with AI in mind. There are 250,000 professionals in India who are specialists in AI and ML, right? There are 250 COEs, Centers of Excellence on AI in India, right? So I think those numbers tell you that this is no joke and these are not small numbers, right? And that's why I say that, when it comes to AI getting implemented at scale, Indian GCCs is where it is happening, right? So the last thing I would say is that if Silicon Valley is where the jazzy engines are getting produced, Indian GCCs are where the car is getting driven. So that's how I would summarize it.
You picked a very important topic, and it's one of the favorite topics that I always discuss in my show.
Yeah.
You're talking about the global capability centers.
Yes.
And I'm glad you touched based on that earlier through our conversation.
Yes.
You spent over a decade working for GCCs. And you're at the helm of transformation. You would have seen a few curves already. From your vantage point of view, where do you think Indian GCCs are taking us and shaping when you look at 2040 and beyond?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question, Sunny, and I think you and your audience will find this extremely interesting. What if I told you that the story of Indian GCCs, the evolution in India, is the story of Indian cricket, just with 15 years of lag, right? So let me explain to you what I mean. 1983, India picks up the World Cup for the first time.
Yeah.
And the world says, okay, India has raw talent and India can really execute on the field, right? So this is cricket. Now add 15 years to 1983, 1998. Let's come to GCCs. What happened in India in 1998 when it comes to GCCs? Microsoft set up its India Development Center in Hyderabad in 1998. And if you look at the literature, that was really the tipping point when the world started noticing India from a GCC standpoint and saying, India has raw talent and India can execute. The same two things, right? And they started sending a lot of execution work to India, right? And at that time, as you know, the GCCs were not even called GCCs. They were called like global in-house centers or captive centers. And they were doing a lot of execution work, right, for global companies. So this is the first chapter of Indian cricket and of Indian GCCs, right? Now let's come back to cricket. 2011, Mahendra Singh Dhoni hits that 6 in the final in Mumbai at Wankhede. And India won the ODI World Cup for the second time.
Yeah.
And then the world started saying, okay, India cannot just execute. India is winning consistently. And India has also become a global power, right, when it comes to the world of cricket. Now add 15 years to 2011. Incidentally, you come to 2026. That's this year, right? So I would say Indian GCCs today are where Indian cricket was in 2011, which is that we are winning consistently. And we have become a global force to reckon with, right? And you look at any data point, you will see proof of that. So just a few days back, Sunny, the NASSCOM 𝗧𝗵𝗶 report was released on GCCs. And what they are saying is that because of the consistent wins that Indian GCCs have had in the last few years, India has crossed $100 billion in Indian GCC sector revenue. This is 4 years ahead of the target. The target was 2030. We have crossed in 2026, right? So clearly we are winning and we are winning consistently, right? Now let's come to when I said we are also a global power, right? There are enough data points for that also. Out of the 2000 top fortune companies in the world, right? 1 in 4 already has an India GCC and they are sending mission critical work to the India GCCs, right? So clearly we are a global force to reckon with, right? So this was the second chapter of cricket and of GCCs, right? Now let's come to the third chapter, right? Talk about cricket in 2026, right? 8th March 2026, India wins the T20 World Cup for the third time, right? And here is what I want you to think about. Nobody was surprised because it was expected. Everybody expected India to win, right? And not only did we win, we won by a huge margin. We won by 96 runs in a T20 match, right? And, if I may say, we did not just win, we owned the game, right? So this is the story of Indian cricket in 2026. Now add 15 years to 2026, you come to 2041 or 2040, right? Around the time you ask the question, what will GCCs look like? So I think GCCs by 2040 in India will look like what Indian cricket looks like in 2026, which is that we will be winning all the time.
Yeah.
It will be expected. Nobody will be surprised, right? If we do great things, it will just be expected, right? And we will literally own the game when it comes to the GCC story globally.
Well said, and I think that correlation helps. So you're saying if I were to correlate from 2011 to 2026, the way our cricket has skyrocketed.
Yes, yeah.
That's where the GCC is going to be.
Absolutely.
For the next 15 years.
Yes.
Is that a nice way of putting it?
Yes, and who's seen 15 years? Who's even seen the next 15 months, Annie? But But since the correlation holds so well, this is my bet, right? Like by or before 2040, that's where I think we will be.
Wonderful. I'll get you back to your favorite topic of AI.
Okay.
While we look at this technology with a lot of opportunity,
Yes.
we look at this with a lot of progression.
Yeah.
We also look at it with a bit of having that scare in our minds.
Yes.
You know, what's going to happen? Are the roles getting obsolete?
Correct.
Are people going to lose jobs? Is there going to be a mass layoff?
Yes.
And with any young professional watching us today,
Yeah.
if you were to guide us with 5 skills
Yeah.
that one must have in current times for the next 3 to 5 years,
Correct.
To make themselves not just AI proof, but
Yes.
future ready,
Yeah.
what would those be?
So first of all, Sunny, this is real, right? Like we see the layoffs every day. This is not just now a hypothetical scenario. If your work involves repetitive skills and if it is very structured work, right, then some part of your job is definitely exposed, right, to this whole AI revolution. In fact, MIT put out a survey, they call it the iceberg index. This was 5 months back. And they said that, 11.7% of all US jobs today can already be done by AI.
Yeah.
This is not the future. This is today, right? This is already possible. And at the same time, actually, McKinsey also put out a survey, which was incidentally not quoted much. But McKinsey actually said that theoretically, at least 50% of jobs can be done by AI, right? So this is the context, right? This is real. This is not just hypothetical of people trying to scare people, right, by saying that AI is taking jobs. Now, to your point, what skills are important in this AI-driven world, right? So I think the way I look at it is the first kind of piece that is extremely important when you think about AI is you need to have AI fluency. Now, what is AI fluency, right? AI fluency simply means, do you understand which problems to apply AI to and which ones not to apply AI to? I think that's very important, right? I recently saw something in LinkedIn, somebody was saying companies have a target to do AI. So what some companies were doing is that the Excel formulae also they were replacing with AI, right? So this is like a joke, right? Like this is an example of very bad AI, right? So you need to be very clear where is AI actually required, right? And where is it not required? That is the first thing in AI fluency.
Yeah.
The second thing is, how do you ask better questions, right? So you have a business problem. How do you convert it into a good question, right? The third piece is, how do you prompt that question into AI? What we used to call prompt engineering, you can call it whatever, but that is a very important skill.
Right.
And then how do you interpret the response of AI, right? Once it gives you a response, do you have a feel of when to push back? Is the response wrong? Can you kind of feel it, right? And how do you push back on AI to test that, right? And also, can you check for bias, right? AI is biased, as we all know, because of the data it's got trained on. So you need to have a sense of, is there bias in this answer and how do you correct for that?
Right.
So that's the first thing, right? That's what I called AI fluency, right? The second thing is what I call human skills, right? Because if everyone learns AI, right, then what differentiates us, right? It's our human side. So within human skills, I'll call out a few things, right? One is the ability to cut through the clutter. So what I mean by that is, look, there are going to be a lot of AI tools. There is going to be a lot of products, news, coding. Every day there's something new on AI, right? There's going to be regulation. You need to have the ability to cut through the clutter and see through what is really important in all of this stuff going on, right? I think that will be a very, very important human skill going forward.
Sure.
Right? The second piece is what I call thinking skills, right? So this would be systems thinking, right? Can you look at a problem as a whole, right? Not just as a standalone problem. Critical thinking, right? Can you critique a problem and its response, right? Can you think deep, right? At a micro level, right? Creative thinking, right? Can you think creatively out of the box, right? So this is what I mean by the thinking skills, right? And last but not the least, I would say adaptability and continuous learning. Because who knows what is, again, the new tool coming tomorrow, and who knows which of these human skills is more important or less important. Maybe AI will become very creative tomorrow. So maybe creative think is not going to be a big thing, right? You need to have the ability to unlearn and relearn quickly, right? That is a super important skill as well. So I think those are some of the skills I would call out in terms of, being successful in this AI-driven world.
What a powerful correlation. You're talking about two favorite topics now.
Yeah.
Cricket and AI.
Yes.
And being at the helm of GCCs and looking at the India story grow,
Yeah.
I'm extremely passionate of what future beholds for all of us.
Yes.
But at the same time, we need to be prepared for it.
That's right. Yeah.
What do you think we need to do, the GCCs of India today,
Yeah.
need to do in this journey as they prepare themselves for future success 2040 and beyond?
Great question. So I think, Sunny, there are 3 shifts that need to happen between now and 2040, right? And again, the interesting thing is that Indian cricket has gone through those 3 shifts, right? So I will continue with the cricket analogy.
Yeah.
So the first shift is from execution to origination of solutions and of leaders. Think about the IPL auction in 2008 when the IPL first started in India, right? How did teams select players, right? There was a big problem. The problem was that the teams were overpaying for past performance because a lot of the player selections were based on past performance, form, recent form. And I'll give you an example. So a fast bowler from Durban, right, was bought for a fortune by a IPL team to play on slow turning pitches in Chennai, right? So this was the issue, right? Now let's cut to today. How do IPL teams today select players in the auction, right? If a team selects a player for 25 crore rupees, they are not selecting this on gut feel or as a gamble, right?
Yep.
They are selecting this as a calculated investment because every serious IPL franchise today has their own data science teams. They have their own AI-driven scouting and performance models, right? So this is what has happened in cricket. And I think the same thing has to happen in GCCs, right, as we move forward, which is that the GCCs have to identify a problem, build the solution, and execute it without instructions from headquarters. Because think about it, that's what happened in the IPL, right? The BCCI didn't tell these teams to develop data science teams and do all these things. They identified the problem, the IPL franchises, they built the solution, right? And they executed it independently.
Yeah.
So I think this same shift has to happen in GCCs, right? Without headquarters telling GCCs that there is a problem, the GCC should be able to identify that there is a problem, build a solution and hand over the solution to the headquarters as a plug and play capability, right?
It's a lot of proactive thinking.
Exactly, right? So this is the first shift. Now there's a second part of the first shift, which is origination of leaders as well. What do I mean by that, right? By 2040, India must be the natural test bed for leadership, global leadership. Not just India roles sitting in India, global roles. The global CTO, the global chief AI officer, the global head of risk, sitting in an India office and running the world from here, right? So I think that's what needs to happen as we get to 2040, right? So that's the first shift, right? Which is moving from execution to origination of solutions and leaders.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the second shift, right? The second shift is moving from workforce to orchestrated intelligence. What do I mean by that, right? So again, let's look at cricket first, right? What happens on a typical IPL broadcast night, right? 300 million people are watching the match. If a young uncapped bowler takes 2 wickets in the same over,
Overnight success.
Yes, but along with overnight success, some things happen in real time, behind the scenes. You don't even realize what happens. Highlight clips are produced automatically in different languages and pushed to 2 different mediums or channels. Ad inventory is repriced in real time.
Wow.
Right? And pushed right to the appropriate channel. The player's backstory is sent to commentators so that they can talk about the player, right? Saying, oh, do you know what this is the backstory of the player, right? All of this happens and is controlled by a very small production team, not by doing the work themselves, by supervising a team of AI agents which autonomously does all of this without anybody prompting for this, right? This is agentic AI in action.
Interesting.
Right? And this is where Indian GCCs need to get to by 2040. I believe that the GCC of 2040 will have what I call human orchestrators or strategic orchestrators, which basically means it is a human who is overseeing a swarm of AI agents and physical agents also, right? Who are doing all the work, right? The human is just overseeing the work and looking at the guardrails, making sure everything is okay, right? So everybody in the GCC moves up from doing the work themselves to overseeing a team of AI agents and physical agents, which we don't see today, but I think will come by 2040, right? Doing the work, right? And the work could be manufacturing, it could be supply chain, it could be customer risk scoring, right? So this is how I think the orchestrated intelligence of the future will look like, right? With not many humans in the GCCs, which is kind of how we look at GCCs today, but the highest impact people in the GCCs working alongside a team of very capable agents. Right?
Interesting.
So that's the second shift, right? Now let's come to the third shift. GMR Group, the owners of Delhi Capitals, some time back they bought Hampshire County Cricket Club. This is one of the oldest cricket clubs in the world. It's a 150-year-old club, right? And for the first time in their history, they have an Indian parent. This is not a standalone instance. Mumbai Indians now have teams in the US, in the UK, in UAE, and in South Africa. KKR has its own cricket franchises all over the world, right? So Indian teams are going on this global acquisition spree, right? India is not just playing in somebody else's league. India is buying the league, right? And I think this is the third shift that needs to happen when it comes to GCCs, right? By 2040, I think the most advanced Indian GCCs will be equivalent to their parent company, to the headquarters, in all but name, right? So think about this in terms of the Indian GCC, right? Today, how does that operate? It is overseen by the global headquarters, right? By 2040, as India becomes the dominant market for most global companies because of our demographics, our size, right, our growth rates, think through what will happen. You know, I think the roles will flip. The Indian GCC will start overseeing the legacy Western markets, right? And will start playing a very important role there, right? So in this story, right, obviously the Indian GCC, which is the biggest talent pool for the global company, it is the biggest contributor of revenue potentially, right? It is where the most AI is getting churned out. That GCC does not remain a subsidiary in any sense of the word, right? It becomes what I call a strategic co-owner. And like now I'm going to say something that might sound very audacious today, but I think it's going to be table stakes by 2040. By 2040, I think we will see the first instance of an Indian GCC acquire its global parent through a reverse merger. So those are the three shifts that I think need to happen so that Indian GCCs can replicate that Indian cricket success story.
Well, I wish and pray everything that you said happens.
Fingers
That's
crossed.
the best thing that can happen to India.
Yeah.
Great. We'll now pivot into, let's bring in the second strength of yours.
Yeah.
We're talking about strategy here.
Yes.
And I'll still hold on to AI for a little moment.
Okay.
Talking about strategy along with AI. Where do you think, from your experience, large and small firms go wrong when it comes to their AI strategy?
Yeah, and they go wrong at the same place, Sunny, interestingly, right? So the biggest area where I've seen companies go wrong when it comes to AI strategy is that they're either too top-down or they're too bottom-up, right? So either the board has put together an ambition on AI, declared very nice PowerPoint presentation, right? And said, oh, we will do AI, right? And then there are people who have to actually do the work, which has the AI. They were not party to this decision or the discussion in any way. So they listen to it, they nod their head, and they go back to doing whatever they were exactly doing before without any change, right? So this is an example of heavy top-down with no bottom-up, right?
Right.
But you also have the other problem, right? You have hundreds of pilots going on the ground with no governance, no connection to each other, no connection to the global strategy of the company, right? This also happens in many companies. So this is a lot of bottom-up with no top-down connection or no governance, right? This is the biggest problem. And not just in India, I think globally this is a problem.
So working in silos.
Exactly. So I think that is the biggest issue today.
If you were to, let's say we have a mid-40 leadership for any company who are now sunk into a problem statement that you got to implement AI.
Yes.
And they don't know how to begin. Being a strategy leader yourself,
yes,
can you give a simple framework to our audience, which can be a great thought to begin with, and that can be used as the takeaway and start forming their AI strategy?
Absolutely. So I've created my own framework for this, Sunny, and the reason I had to create it is exactly because of what I said, right? I've looked at every framework from every consulting company, from every niche consulting firm in the world, right? And they all actually have the same problem. They are all either very top-down or they are very bottom-up, right? So I had to go build my own framework. The framework I built is called Braid, B-R-A-I-D.
B-R-A-I-D.
Braid literally means to intertwine, right? So as I said earlier, you need to intertwine the top down and the bottom up. It has to be connected, right? So the framework literally means that, Braid. And what is Braid? Braid is these 5 letters which stand for 5 things, right? So B is business, right?
Okay.
You always have to start with the outcome in mind, right? There should be a material KPI that you want to influence in the company. And for every company, it could be different based on where the company is, where is it going.
Right.
What is the biggest KPI that the company wants to influence? Leveraging AI, right? So that's the B, right? R is the roadmap. Where does this KPI find itself in a workflow, right? So you need to look, and maybe it's there in multiple workflows, right? So then you need to sequence your roadmap. Which workflows will you pick up first for AI implementation? Which ones will you pick up in the next wave? And which ones will you defer for now? There could be good reasons for deferring some roadmap. But that should be very clear and communicated to all the stakeholders very clearly, right? A is architecture, right? So what data, platforms, processes are you going to use when you are doing this AI implementation? Yeah. And I think here another trap Sunny people fall into is they try to design the best AI platform today, and that eats up a lot of time, right? I think you need to design the reusable data platforms, and you need to do the bare minimum platform that you need to go ahead with whatever your plans are, right? You can keep iterating on that. And that's why I said it has to be reusable and has to be agile, right? You shouldn't go around building spend 2 years building the best platform in the world and realize technology is changing every day, right? Tomorrow something else could come which completely kind of negates what you're building, right? So I think that's the piece to take care from an architecture standpoint. It should be the bare minimum reusable components that you're building, right? I is the implementation. So once you've done all of this good stuff, I is where the AI actually comes into the process and changes the process, right? The problem with I is people put AI on top of an existing workflow. That is not the essence of doing AI. AI has to change the workflow, right? That is very important. So that is the I, right? And D is diffusion, right? So if all this worked well, sharing the learnings across the entire enterprise, right? Saying, hey, this is what we did, this is what worked well, this is what didn't work well, and the implications of that to all the other pilots going on in the company, right? So this is Braid, right? And how to start this tomorrow, right? Is that, first of all, anybody can do Braid. Braid is not for the board or for the CEO or for the process owner, right?
Right.
Anybody can use this framework, and you can start from where you are today. So some companies already have a roadmap. They know which workflows they want to use AI in, but they have not thought about which major KPI is getting impacted by this workflow, right? So they need to think through that, the left side, the B, right? And also the right side. What is the architecture? What is the implementation, and how to diffuse the learnings, right? Sometimes people have a great platform, right? They build this fantastic platform, and then they are talking about it, saying, hey, we've built a platform, right? That doesn't mean anything again. You have to think about the B and the R, right? What problem is this solving at a KPI level? And what is the roadmap for this nice platform that you built? How are you thinking about using this, right? Or leveraging this? So this is the advantage of Braid. You start from where you are and you complete the full chain. That is the discipline that is required, right? There is a full playbook behind this, Sunny, which I've created, which I can kind of share with your users if there's with your audience if there's interest. But this is the short podcast version of the framework, right? So Braid.
Wonderful. We'll make sure this is included in the description as we see this video.
Fantastic.
Build versus buy versus partner.
Yes.
This is an intersection that every leader would face.
Absolutely.
At some stage or the other.
Yeah.
How do we deal with this?
Yes. So this is again one of my favorite questions as well, and this comes up in literally every panel I'm part of. And I have another analogy to talk to this, Sunny, and it's not a cricket analogy, it's a food analogy, because food is also one of the things that I love, right? So I often say that good AI is like good biryani, okay? And the reason I say that is because whether it comes to good AI or it comes to good biryani, you need the same 4 things. And within those 4 things is the answer to the build, partner, and buy, right? So the first thing you need for a good biryani is a good foundation, right? Good rice, like good meat, right? And some good secret ingredients, which even if you ask the chef, he will never tell you what those secret ingredients are, right? He will always keep it close to his chest. This is on the biryani. Now come to AI. For AI, that foundation layer is data, right? AI is only as good as the foundation layer, which is the data on which it is built on, right? So when companies think about this foundation layer, some data they could kind of get from the market, right? So they could buy data, they could partner on data, but there's always a part of the data, right, which is proprietary to the firm. There could be something unique about the data which only they know or they do as a company, which they will never share with the outside world, right? So that always has to be built or owned, right? You keep it in-house.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, right? The second thing on top of it is what I call the cooking IP, which means how do you cook the biryani and how do you cook the data, right? So in case of the biryani, there's this dum process, right? Like the way you cook the biryani, it's where many chefs treat this also very secretly. They will do small things that will change the flavor of the biryani, right? And they will never reveal this to the outside world, right? On what is this process that they're using. In case of companies, they also typically have some platform or process which is very unique to them, right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to reveal that to the outside world or let people get an inside view on that. So typically this part of AI is also built or owned, right? But it's very proprietary to the company, right? And you have your own style or process of doing AI, right? The third piece is what I call premium toppings. So in your biryani, you can buy some very premium toppings from the market and make your biryani more interesting or more valuable, right? Or more differentiated. Similarly, companies can buy premium capabilities from the market, right? Which they can layer on top of their AI product or solution to make that offering much more valuable, interesting, and differentiated, right? And this is where the buy comes in, right? So here you can buy those components because it may not be your core business, but those add real value to your core business. So you are willing to spend the money and buy those from the market, right? And finally, the fourth thing that you need for good AI and good biryani is a good kitchen, right? Which is basically, in case of biryani, you need a kitchen which already has the infrastructure to build, like to cook the biryani, right? Or to keep the ingredients and you just cook the biryani. So these days, any major biryani chain will not buy this kitchen. They will just rent it out. So it's called a cloud kitchen, incidentally, right? And the term holds very well, right? Because in the AI world also you have cloud. So you can rent out a Google kitchen to do all your good AI stuff, right? You don't need to build your own data center. Google is the expert, right? So just partner with Google, right? Get their data center, like use their systems, right? They may have state-of-the-art models already inbuilt which you can use, right? So this is the partner layer, right? Where you can just partner with a kitchen that's already out there where you can cook all your nice AI stuff, right? So this is the framework, right? And within this, as I said, you need to think through what can only you do better with AI. A lot of people ask, what can AI do? That is not the right question. The right question is, what can only you do with AI better than everyone else? And you can deconstruct it into these layers, right? And then think about where is the build, where is the partner, and where is the buy, right? The last thing I will say on this is that research has shown that none of these is the optimum strategy. Neither build, nor partner, nor buy. There is ample research to show that the best strategies are a combination of build, partner, and buy, right? Through a very thoughtful process. And companies which do that well have a 2.5 times higher success rate than companies that do not do that.
Interesting. You sit on boards of enterprise companies, startups.
Yes.
And you've been at the helm of decision making.
That's right.
With all this noise around AI,
Yeah.
if you were to advise a board,
Yes.
how do they prioritize their strategies around AI and how do they keep the fluff aside?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question, because I think the boards have a very important role to play in this entire equation, right? So I think the first thing is that boards need to segregate themselves from the noise.
Yeah.
So when I say noise, I mean, what model are we using? What platform are we using? I think that's a management level decision, right?
Right.
They should not kind of spend their time on these decisions.
Right.
The board is a governance body, right? So I think the board needs to spend time, I think, on 2 or 3 things that come to my mind, right? The first thing is, again, Braid, right? The board should make sure that there is a top-down and bottom-up intertwining which is happening, right? Like we spoke on the Braid framework, right? It is their responsibility to make sure that that rigor is there, and we are not just having either 100 pilots on the ground with no top-down, or we are having only a top-down beautiful strategy deck with no bottom-up, right? So I would say that is something they should ask the hard questions to make sure that Braid is getting followed in the companies, right? The second piece is the governance and risk function, which is a very important part of what boards do, right?
Sure.
If I think of the risk side, they should ask questions like, is our competition doing AI faster than us? And is that real AI, or is it just like pilots, right? Is it just showbazi? So the board needs to ask that question and kind of decipher that. Again, cut through the clutter. They might hear many things, but they need to have that ability to cut through the clutter and see, okay, is this real? Is our competition really beating us on AI? And what does that mean for us, right? They should decipher the risk of what happens if there is AI built on bad data, right? That is a risk as well, which a lot of boards actually don't talk about. But those are the kind of questions from a risk standpoint that they need to figure out, right? On the governance side, it's things like, what is our AI use policy, right? Do we have one, right? What is the AI regulation in the country or emerging regulation in the country? And are we in consonance with that, right? So those are the kind of questions to ask when it comes to governance side, right? And I think finally, I think the boards kind of need to make sure that there is ROI on AI. And I know what a lot of people must be thinking. Nobody wants to be the board member who kills innovation by asking the ROI question upfront. Because AI is new. Everybody knows that. It will take some time to get ROI and all. That's fine. But I think as a board member, you need to ask the hard questions, right? And if you are not seeing ROI in your AI initiative, I think there's a problem, right? The unit economics has to work out, right? And there's this famous case study, right, where OpenAI, there's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn where the CFO keeps arguing with Mr. Sam Altman, right, on this very same topic, right? And I think that's a very good friction, right? Like the board and the CFO need to challenge the CEO if there is no ROI, right? I think that conversation doesn't happen in enough boardrooms today because people don't want to kill the conversation upfront. But I think that is a very important part of what boards should do today.
Interesting. I'm going to switch gears,
okay,
and take you to the third segment of what you
Sure.
Passionate about and what you're good at, gamification.
Okay.
Now, even before we dive into gamification,
Yes.
for our audience's sake,
Yeah.
can you explain gamification in absolute simple everyday example?
Sure. So gamification is the use of game mechanics in non-game contexts. So ये तो definition हो गया, but what does this mean, right? So when you play a game, you get so engrossed in the game, right? And think about it, you're killing the same monster again and again and again, but you don't get bored. You can keep playing it for hours together, right? Now, when your boss tells you to make the same report again and again and again, then you get bored, right? Like in just a few minutes. Why is that, right? So gamification is the science of this, right? How can you take learnings from games that make them so interesting and engaging and put that to non-game context, which means to doing work, to doing exercise, right? So that's what gamification basically means, right? And let me give you some examples that bring this to life, right? So LinkedIn, like a lot of your audience uses this. Everybody would have seen the completion bar, right? Your profile is 72% complete. And we have this itch when we see that bar that let's complete it, right? We want to complete it. And that's because of human behavior, right? We are wired that way. We want to complete things. We don't want to leave it incomplete, right? So I think that's a beautiful, simple application of gamification that which kind of is out there and which is extremely powerful, and you might have fallen for it without even realizing it, right? And it's a win-win because you get a better profile when you complete your profile. LinkedIn gets more data, so the platform becomes more powerful, right? Let's talk about Netflix, right? The moment you finish a Netflix show, you will have seen at the bottom right that there's a countdown which starts 5, 4, 3, 2 for the autoplay, right? The next episode to come automatically. It is not just there for your convenience. It's a very beautifully designed gamification experience because you can always pick up the remote and stop that from happening, right? So you have a choice, right? Gamification is about giving choices to the user. So you're giving the user a choice, right? But the choice has so much friction in it. You have to pick the remote, do all this work, right? Nice show is going on. Like, who's going to do all of that, right? So the psychological option is so easy to just not do anything that you have this, dopamine effect that, oh, nice, I just have to don't do anything and the next episode starts, right? So this is also a gamification design actually, which people don't realize, but it's a beautiful study on how gamification has been used in Netflix, right? Let's talk about Duolingo, right? Duolingo is probably the most popular chat app in the world to learn languages. And there is this streak thing which happens, right? If you miss a lesson for one day, then you have missed your streak, right? And Duolingo will start sending you all these messages saying, oh no, you missed a streak, come back, right? And all those things. And the pain of going through that streak getting missed is so great that people think, let's just do that lesson, 5-minute lesson, like who's going to break the streak, right? So this is also a beautiful game mechanic, right? And this is taken from games again, right? Where games give you this streak thing and then they keep bringing you back. saying, hey, you have 4 out of 5 streaks, come back and play today, right?
Yeah.
So this is also a learning which has been taken from games and applied beautifully to, to real world context. So this is gamification.
Are there any dark sides of gamification,
Yeah.
manipulation that we should be mindful of?
Fantastic question. There is absolutely a dark side to gamification, right? Let's start with Duolingo only, because that's what we ended the last question with. So this streak mechanic, right, which I spoke to you about, guess what? If you miss a streak, you can buy a streak back with money, right? So you can actually spend dollars and you can buy back your streak.
And you can buy streaks on a lot of other platforms as
There
well.
you go, right? Now think about that. Is that buying of the streak, is it really helping you learn a language? Or is it monetizing your behavior or your loss aversion? Is it monetizing that and Duolingo is benefiting from that, right? So these are the things you need to think about, right? The more dangerous dark side is trading apps, right? There are many trading apps. As soon as you make a trade, you'll see this confetti blowing up. Yay, congratulations, you did a trade. They will show you some leaderboard where you are the, 5th largest trader today, right? Or things like that. Then you want to be first, right? So they kind of celebrate your transactions, right? And they encourage you to trade more. Now, I know, and your audience knows that the more you trade, the more money you lose, right? It's a proven fact. So this is a very dark side of gamification, because it is not a win-win, right? The company is winning at your cost. You're not winning here, you're losing, but the company is winning. The most beautiful gamification is when there is a win-win, right? Think about all the earlier examples I told you about, right, of good gamification. LinkedIn, you complete your profile, you get a better profile, LinkedIn gets more data. Win-win, right? Netflix, right? You continue to watch nice content, right, as a user, so you gain. Netflix keeps a user engaged. So they maximize their screen time, so they win. Well, it's almost win-win. If you have a 2 a.m., you are watching a show, and 7 a.m., you have a meeting with your boss, then it's controversial, right? Duolingo, again, the good part of the streaks is win-win, right? Because you are overcoming your laziness and coming back to learn a language, right? And Duolingo is also keeping its users engaged, whatever they track, their MAU, daily active users, monthly active users, so they also win, right?
Yeah.
So this is a good win-win, right, in gamification. What I just described on the trading app is not a win-win. They win, you lose, right? So that is the most important test that needs to be done when it comes to gamification. Is it actually a win-win, right? That's how I assess whether it is a good gamification or is it just a dark side gamification dressed up in good UI.
Very interesting. We spoke about AI, we spoke about strategy, we spoke about gamification. If we were to bring all these three things together, how would that work?
So these are actually 3 sides of the same equation. And remember when I said the dots can only connect looking backward, right? So strategy tells you where to go. AI builds the capability to get there because it simplifies the execution, it surfaces the insights better, right? So it builds the capability to get where strategy tells you to go, right? Gamification makes your people want to go there, right? So this is the link, right? And I think about where companies globally are with these 3 things, right? Everybody has some kind of a strategy. Everybody is trying to experiment with AI, right? But I don't see many companies using good gamification, right? Or thinking through gamification in an important way. And I think that's very important because companies are investing a lot of money in strategy in AI. But if there is no adoption at the ground level, then it's all gone to waste. And I think gamification is a very powerful lever to drive adoption, right? So even if you think about AI, right, you will see a lot of case studies where companies are investing millions of dollars, billions of dollars in buying AI tools, giving it to their employees, right? But the employees are just not using it, right? Why is this happening, right? You need to understand the psychology of the player, which is the employee in this case, right? If the employee perceives this, that he is interacting with a tool which is going to take his job, he's not going to do anything with that tool, right? So you need to design this experience in a way that the player, which is the employee, feels good about using it, truly sees it as a tool, right, which is in his favor, right? And it's a co-pilot to him. It's not like overtaking his job, right? And I think one of the case studies which I wanted to share with your audience is of BBVA. So BBVA is actually a Spanish multinational financial services group, and the way they rolled out ChatGPT in the organization was very interesting, right? So in the beginning, they rolled out only 3,000 licenses of ChatGPT.
Okay.
And they said, look, this is all we have. Whoever wants, please come and take it first, right? But they also said, if you don't use it, then you lose it. So they're also tracking usage, right? So now this is a game mechanic, right? The moment you create scarcity, everybody wants to go and get it, right? So there was suddenly this viral news in the company, oh, only 3,000 licenses, let's go and get it, right? And immediately 3,000 licenses got exhausted, right? And people started using it because if they don't use it, they will lose it, right? And then, you had BBVA introduced what they call wizards. So these were AI champions who were your peers, right? They were not, there was no top-down directive that hey, use AI, right?
Sure.
They created these AI champions who literally sat with you and kind of coached you, right? On how does this tool work? What can you do with it, right? Which is also a game mechanic, because if you heard of multiplayer games, right? If everybody is doing the same thing in a game, you also, psychologically get wired to do it. You think that if everybody is doing it, I should also do it, right? So this was the game mechanic that they used in these AI champions, because the AI champions were doing it, who are your peers, then you also want to do it, right? And then the last thing they did was they said, use ChatGPT to make your day-to-day work easier. So they did not say, hey, cut cost by 20%, right? Or any single metric, because that could be unique to every user, right?
Yeah.
So users use their own creativity on how should they use the tool, right? They build their own GPTs for different things, right? Which led to a lot of ownership. And once they started seeing the value in it for themselves, they also got hooked.
Yeah.
This is also a game mechanic, right? Once you give a player ownership of a character or profile, they become really attached to it.
True.
Right? And once they see the points go up or the score going up, then they feel motivated, right? They feel a kick out of it, that, okay, I got value from whatever I did, and then they just get hooked, right? So this is the case study, and the impact of this was the 3,000 licenses went to 11,000 in no time, because there was so much demand. Everybody wanted to do it, right? Everybody wanted to use AI. Usage went up from like 20% to like 80% in a very short amount of time, right? And I think more than 5,000 custom GPTs were created by employees to solve real problems, right? So this is an example where a company did gamification to drive AI adoption, which was directly connected to their strategy, right? Which is to solve customer problems at scale, right? And I think there is an opportunity in a lot of global enterprises to kind of learn from this and do this better.
That's wonderful. Mayur, this is so much of value extraction over the last hour or so that we've spoken, but I'm sure this can be endless.
Yes.
And for our audience's sake, if they were to follow your journey and continue to learn and take inspiration from you, how do they get in touch with you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just find me there, follow me, connect with me, disagree with me, right? I think some of my best thought process has happened from people who pushed back on me, right? So please do that. And one thing I would say is, don't just consume this conversation, right? If even one thing resonated with you from what we spoke about today, implement it this week itself. Because I think, Sunny, the world of AI that we are entering in, the difference is not between people who know and don't know. You can know anything in ChatGPT in 5 minutes, right? The difference is in people who act and people who wait. And if you're watching this podcast and you watched till now, I think you already made the choice which of those two people you are.
Well said. And I think the choice is very clear in terms of the advancement that our country is going through.
Yeah.
The GCC story.
Yes.
The adoption of AI.
Yeah.
With very sound strategy and gamification.
Yes.
Fine leaders like you at helm of it.
Yeah.
We are all positioning very strongly for a cumulative success.
Yeah.
We've seen the industrial revolution. We've seen the dark ages.
That's right.
But now India continues to see what I believe is going to be a cumulative success story.
Yes.
With everything coming together.
Yes.
Mayur, it has been my pleasure hosting you today. And thank you so much for bringing so much clarity in your own way. I would like to put it this way. I had a pretty cluttered desktop.
Yeah.
And like a 𝗧𝗵𝗲 work.
Yes.
You helped me put everything in a decluttered manner, and it looks fantastic. The vision is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think the way you are able to break it down by using those simple frameworks.
Yes.
I'm sure many of us will learn a lot from those kind of ideas that you brought on table.
Thank you, Sunny. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again for having me. And yes, upwards and onwards, individually as well as at a country level.
Upwards and onwards indeed. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Sunny.
So ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw and whom you heard from is one of the best brains in India and globally when it comes to AI, when it comes to strategy, and when it comes to gamification. I'm sure you learned a lot of things and would take away and implement them in your organizations, in your roles, and in your companies. Until then, we meet again. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you on the other one. Thank you so much.